Welcome, everybody. This is episode 1 of Ember episodes. This is our new weekly podcast, which will be available on Thursdays, where we get together, talk through our vision, mission, values, and our partners and everything else Ember related, in addition to DeFi. So we have lots of generic DeFi conversations and topics to discuss, and be a great opportunity for everybody to get educated on the space. So my name is JR. I am CEO and co-founder of Ember, and today I've got my partner and CTO and other co-founder, Matt Batman, as you guys may know him, and Crypto Stu, our economic advisor, and David Hunter, our blockchain advisor. So we're going to go through today, talk through what are the facets of an Ember. Well, I think that is more so a metaphor, if anything, but really it's just kind of understanding where we came from, what got us started, and what our mission is. So excited to kind of go through this today. We're going to do a quick introduction, kind of who is Ember, then kind of get into the what is DeFi. I think that's a pretty broad topic. Let's speak to that a little bit today, and then on to kind of what is blockchain as a whole, and we'll let David Hunter kind of drive that topic and explain a little bit about who is Blockstar, and then lastly, kind of like where are we going with the purpose of Ember and what are we trying to bring to the space. So excited about this and look forward to getting rolling here. So we'll kind of kick it off with an agency overview. So Ember started out of really out of need. I think it was something that was kind of off the coattails of a troubling experience. You know, anybody that goes into business and goes into kind of a work environment and has an expectation of how things are going to go, sometimes that just doesn't pan out. And I think in my life, I know I've learned a lot, both from mistakes, and I've learned a lot from success. You know, sometimes you learn what to do by learning what not to do. And I think that was a big motivator for us kind of starting this, because we wanted to bring more governance and more structure into the space. And so Ember was started really just to bring, as an agency, the talents and values and experience that myself bring to the table, and that we felt could help, benefit the industry and benefit the space. I think the space is filled with a lot of projects and tokens that are lacking in brand continuity, and they're lacking in governance, they're lacking in structure. And so we thought, this is a great place to build an agency and build a digital firm that can serve some of these clients, while also extending our reach outside of DeFi and bring people into it. So really excited to kind of be in it and watch it evolve. I think the biggest impact so far is obviously us launching our token, which I'll jump into. So I guess before that, just to say that, Ember as a whole, we're a digital agency. We offer advisory, branding, code, and design to DeFi and beyond. So everything from brand strategy all the way through digital marketing, web development, software engineering, so on and so forth. We're a go-to for those types of services, for projects new and some that may be struggling in the space, where we can provide opportunity to them. So as far as what we brought to the market outside of our experience, that's our token. So we launched the Ember token. I'll let Matt kind of speak to that, buddy, if you want to talk about a little bit of our history and what spawned this, and really what our core mission was from the get-go.
Yeah, thanks, JR. So why we kind of decided to go with Ember token as a whole was just from previous experiences that we've had in the crypto space as a whole, right? There's a lot of really shady stuff out there. There's a lot of good stuff out there. And it's how do you determine who's safe or not, who's a good coin, what's a good project, what's a good utility. And then for the ones that, maybe they just didn't, they made a mistake, they did something wrong. Like, what are some ways that we can help those people out? And for us, we wanted to bring a token into the space that would kind of do a few things. One is be a safe place to build partnerships and to help point out and educate what's a good token, good project, good utility. Another side of that was to help out upcoming projects to make sure that they get started off right and that they can avoid a lot of the common mistakes and maybe help them through some of the things that they might not have thought about. And thirdly was around a recovery aspect. So maybe it's a good community and a good project, and there was just something bad happened. They need some help. So from that aspect, we wanted to be a recovery project that came out and just helped others in the space to be able to reconcile or some way of being made whole after something happens. So that's just the general behind what we thought about with Ember Token.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think it's funny. Like you end up in this space and you kind of have this idea in mind of what it's going to be like, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the space that we're hopefully here to clear up by educating people properly, and we can do that through our services. We can do that through our token. That's what I'm excited about. So a little bit of my background. I'll just jump into it. So I'm a 17-year brand strategist. I've been building brands for Fortune 500 companies all the way down to mom and pops as long as I can remember. I've always been an artist, always had the heart of an entrepreneur, and have built most of my career outside of DeFi. But really what pulled me in was an opportunity to be a part of a project. And that project's what's kind of brought all of us together. Unfortunately, it was victim of a bad actor, and that project is really what spawned Ember. So without that, we wouldn't be here. So I'm thankful for it in some ways. It's how we met David. It's how we met Stu and a lot of the rest of the team. So as far as really my background, what I bring outside of my CEO obligations, which I'm embracing with a dose of humility every day as we grow this, it's really heavily around building our brand, building our identity, and communicating our value to people. That's done visually, that's done verbally, that's done with video. It's done in many different ways, but it's not just done by me. It's done by a lot of very selfless individuals who've come together, which we'll get to in just a minute. But yeah, that's the side of the agency and the token that I bring is building our visuals and kind of creating that online personality, creating that visual personality, and making sure that everything we communicate is cohesive and consistent. And it's also just really bringing the branch of an entrepreneurial heart and mindset, which is looking for innovative ways to expand our brand, looking for opportunities to build relationships with people and expand our network. And that's really what we've done. And we've been blessed with Stu and David, who are on the call today. And so, yeah, it's humbling to take something that is traditionally, I guess outside of DeFi in my world, and be able to bring those talents and those capabilities into the space and kind of watch things flourish, and to be able to see others from, like Matt, who being a software engineer, he'll tell you about in a minute, to kind of bring that expertise into the space and watch it flourish, and bring value to people that we would have probably otherwise never worked with, both in and outside of our token and our agency. So that's a little bit about me. Matt, if you want to go ahead, love to kind of hear your story.
Yeah, so I've been in the crypto space for about 12 years now. I started around 2010 when Bitcoin was just starting to kind of come out and have some rumblings in the background as far as what it was. I thought it was pretty neat. And so I actually started mining it on one of my machines. Nothing too crazy. I just thought it was a really cool way of mining currency and kind of what that meant in the future in that space. Got up to where it was worth I think I stopped it for a little bit, maybe a couple of years, came back later on, and it was worth like $300. I was like, oh, cool. So I went ahead and sold it, and bought myself like a nice keyboard or something with it. I don't even remember. And here we are 10 years after that, and Bitcoin is obviously blown up, and a lot of other things have fallen from it. And aside from kicking myself for selling it early on, I've always been really interested in the space, really into bleeding edge technology, and trying to learn and stay up to date. By trade, I'm a software developer, software engineer, web developer, whatever you want to call it. I've been in tech for about 17 years now. And I've done anything from little mom and pop websites all the way up to Fortune 100 companies building mobile applications for them, and everything in between. So for me, where all this kind of ties in is how I can basically like give back in all things tech. Eventually, I'd like to learn blockchain technologies, and I've started dabbling in it a little bit. But for now, my core focus has been on just software development as a whole.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, Matt and I go back a good ways outside of the space for about seven years or so, working together. And he was like my first call when I had a chance to enter the space and provide service value. He was the very first person I called, and for many reasons. So definitely thankful to have him as a 50/50 with this, and you know, with a lot of opportunity for growth. So you know, outside of Matt and I, like it's okay to it's cool to have a vision. It's cool to want to make change in the space, but you also really have to know your limitations. And I think I throughout my professional career, I feel like I've definitely had a hard time embracing that and just agreeing to myself. And what I mean is, it's so easy to be like, oh, I'll take this on, I'll try that out, I'm going to throw some spaghetti and see what sticks, you know, see what sticks to the wall. And kind of knowing your strengths and knowing, you know, your weaknesses. And to me, you can't build something that we're trying to build without without an army, to be honest. Like, you know, there's too many projects in the space that are just not, they're just not structured enough. They don't have a business mind when they're trying to build a business model, and they lack that experience. And that's okay. Not everybody is meant to be some, you know, professional businessman or businesswoman or entrepreneur. I mean, everybody has to start somewhere, but I think, you know, you can establish yourself, but you don't get the growth you want without having the right people in the right places. And if you try to do too much, you're going to spread yourself thin. I know I've done that in my career. Matt, I'm sure you've been there. And that's really where we knew if we were going to launch this, given, you know, the fact we came from a failed project in the space, we were really going to need a broader team. And that core team is what we determined, hey, let's get people we can be accountable to. Let's get people that are more experienced in life and in business, and provide people that we need to listen to, and that we feel like we kind of need to be accountable to, you know, and build that advisory board. And that's what we did. We extended the invite to David Hunter and Stu and you know, Charlie and Greg and some of the guys from Beast, which is one of our clients. You know, we found people that we really enjoyed working with and said, hey, what can we learn from them? What value can they bring? And really, where do we grow together, so that we're looking at this from so many different angles in and outside of a DeFi mind. And so that core team is what really started Ember. But I think the more fascinating and exciting part is right after we launched, within days, we had a team, you know, spanning over 25 people. We didn't seek them out. We didn't make any empty promises of, you know, payroll and things like that. We just launched and were met at the door by some of the most selfless, caring, thought-provoking people that I've ever worked with in my career. And those are our mods. And those mods, you know, yes, quote unquote extended team, but collectively they're all a part of the team, and we treat them the same way that we treat each other. And I think that there's something to be said about that. You know, when you feel like you leave people on the outskirts, or you position them to only, it's okay to position people in their strengths, but I think it's really important that you give people a chance to have a voice, even when they don't feel like they've maybe earned that, or they don't have enough experience, or they're not confident even in themselves, you know, but you give them a chance to be a part of a group and a team that embraces their, you know, their creativity, or embraces their insight, or even their questions and even their concerns at times. It makes for a very well-rounded team and a very well-rounded business. And that's what we've surrounded ourselves with. So, you know, we're sitting on a 25+ person team right now, including all of our mods. And to me, that alone is what's going to drive us long term, is being able to spread out the opportunity, spread out the responsibility, spread out the creative thinking across a lot of people all across the world. I think we're spanning 11 different time zones right now, which is really incredible. You know, many businesses strive to reach internationally and fail to get there. And the fact that we did that, you know, on the day of launch, you know, you immediately enter a global market. And I feel like that's a really understated opportunity, but also responsibility. And that responsibility comes from embracing people that can speak to their communities and speak to their demographics and their side of the world, where we lack context and we lack experience in, and just having that level of talent and insight, day one or day three, I guess in our case, was absolutely incredible. I think it really helped drive the parabolic growth that we really didn't want, I guess, to some degree, but they were there to support it either way. And I think there's really something to be said about it. So really proud to have an awesome team. That's a little bit about Ember and what we're doing, kind of where we came from a little bit. We'll get into that another day. But I really just want to kind of give a rundown of really how it started and who's behind it and how it's structured and supported. So next I want to introduce Stu. So Stu is a local friend, turned client, and now turned advisor for Ember. We have a very awesome bilateral relationship with our businesses. He is the founder of Block Syndicate, and they're based out of here in Atlanta, where we're at. And when it came to having somebody that we knew could at least contribute the time, but also contribute a really fresh perspective and set of kind of rules for us to honor and live by within ourselves, and kind of guardrails, if you will. He was one of the first people that came to mind. He was a big help in previous projects, and I thought, man, what a great opportunity to onboard somebody if they're willing to, and he showed up with bells on. So I want to introduce Stu to the call here, and let him kind of explain who he is and what Block Syndicate is, but more so beyond that, what is DeFi in his eyes, and so Stu, I'm going to ask you, like, after a quick intro, if you don't mind just giving a little bit of your background and a little bit of information about Block Syndicate, so anybody listening can obviously go do their own research and learn more about you. I would love, from the perspective of somebody who we really treasure and value, what is the best layman's terms definition of DeFi in your mind that's going to speak to a pretty broad audience?
Yeah, thanks, John. So yeah, first off, really excited to be part of the team, and it's crazy to see the trip we've taken so far, and Blocks, being part of Block Syndicate and being partnered with Ember Agency has been awesome so far. So very quickly, I'm Crypto Stu all over Telegram, so feel free to hit me up at any time. I'm spinning up some of our services on there, as well as we will be moving over to the Blockstar platform as well. Our primary business model is we help individuals and corporations onboard into DeFi safely from a treasury and investment perspective. So that's our primary real bread and butter of where we've come from and what we've set up thus far. And from an investment strategy, it's really the being able to utilize what DeFi, Web3, crypto as a whole, outside of going and buying Bitcoin, buying Ethereum, but it's really looking at the mechanisms that are in DeFi and how you can leverage those for long-term asset gains. So that's it's a very, very quick brushstrokes of what we do, but that's the real bread and butter from an outside investor perspective of why you want to leverage DeFi, because there are a lot of either lending platforms, staking platforms, asset yield, that passive income that everybody throws those terms around now. And DeFi and Web3 is really the way to do it, of being able to hold your assets and then let that grow and then earn from it. Like, that's the name of the game long term, because crypto at the end of the day is still in its infancy. Even though there's so much hype around it, the why is that we're still looking at this like the internet in 1992, 1993. It exists. It's a thing. People are talking about it, but the adoption level hasn't even really begun of how can you use crypto across the world. And that's where our primary, from an investment strategy perspective and education there, is how can you get in place and leverage those mechanisms that are already in existence to get yourself set up for the next 3, 5, 10, 20 years correctly, safely, and implement those for an individual or a corporation from I'll say a store of value. So that's really where we come from in the outside world. Inside the world of DeFi, we are deep into the contract mechanics and the levers that are able to be pulled. We don't code them, but we're able to advise on them. And that's really where I know when we were able to partner up with John and Matt to be able to talk through a lot of the tax structures and contract structures. I don't know how to code them, and I don't want to know how to code them, but what DeFi can really do in there. So that's where that partnership came into play. And I know John touched on it We do have a bilateral partnership between the Ember agency and Block Syndicate. So we are able to bilaterally sell our services and include those in that model. So that's why it's a pretty much match made in heaven there. We don't step on each other's toes because I don't do branding. I don't do marketing. I don't do coding, but we do the mechanics. So it's been a great partnership thus far. So that's who we are. We are a Wyoming-based LLC, but physically we are located in Atlanta, so everything works out well there. And John, to ask your question, kind of what is DeFi? What is DeFi depends on who you ask, but a lot of the people talking to the outside world from an investment perspective, this is the internet. It's just on the blockchain, and so everything has its contract signature. So everything is written in stone. It's just like having the internet. You can send an email, you can make a call, but that is written in stone on the blockchain. It is anonymous, but it is public, and you cannot change it once it happens. And that's really where then that level of security and level of usage, where the long term, we are nowhere near what is actually capable of in the real world of the current internet web 2. We haven't even scratched the surface of what we can really utilize from a DeFi and web in the future. It's a much bigger world than just tokens and holding assets and have Bitcoin. It's really the connectivity that's really what DeFi is in the long run.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because here I find myself in a pretty big chair, right? And I'm still learning a lot about DeFi, and I learn a lot of it through you. I learn a lot of it through David, and even Matt, more so being in software development. He doesn't come from the blockchain side, so as he's continued to educate himself, it's like this. It's an ongoing thing. I mean, and with that said, like when you look at onboarding people, like you define onboarding or on-ramping people into DeFi, are there any like prerequisites? Is there anything in your mind as your own company, that you look for, or that people need to have? Is there a certain amount of money that they have to get into DeFi, on their own, or specifically through Block Syndicate? Is there anything along those lines that when you're speaking to private equity that they need to be mindful of?
Yeah, the real answer is no, because at the end of the day, I mean, you can go Google of turn $5 into 5 million, things like that. So the real answer is no. And it really depends on talking to an outside investor of true investor mind. It's really turning into, well, instead of you have a portfolio, you have a stock portfolio, there's a percentage of those assets that then let's leverage DeFi. And I know a lot of people talk about it very similar of it. That's that 8 to 12% of your investment is like that big air quotes high risk. And that's really what you're looking for. Where are you comfortable in a portfolio versus the amount of dollars that you're actually putting in? So that's a lot more of the conversation, because then that big, crypto portfolio and investment strategy can get broken up into a bunch of different facets of tokens like Ember and Bitcoin and Ethereum and Blockstar and all those areas. And a lot of people look at it, I'm going to go invest in crypto. I jump on a Coinbase account and I go buy a bunch of Bitcoin. That is scratching the surface of what's really out there from an investment perspective. Got it.
Now, and last question for you is for anybody listening in that's looking at okay, I could definitely use some help, so on and so forth. You're clearly to not be a security, where do you draw the line to where you on-ramp people, but you're not managing their stuff for them, or is there some level of management? And if there is, what limitations do you have to where you don't run into SEC, problems and things like that? Where do you draw the line on on kind of an investment strategy standpoint with your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. The one biggest thing is that we are not a hedge fund. You don't invest into a pool and you don't get the dividends out, because that's when clearly it's a security. All of our services are treated as white glove. So we have a service fee, and then we are either over the shoulder or that combined shared wallet that we're able to then help an individual move assets. But then all of our everything that is invested through the services of Block Syndicate, it all sits in customer facing wallets. So it is still customer money. Our services really come into the play because we want to help them move safely. So we shepherd them through the process. And that's one thing, because it's a managed service, not managed funds and managed assets. Because technically today you can get away with that if we were going to be buying and selling on behalf of someone, but we don't know what regulations look like in 2 to 3 years. So we're trying to stay as far ahead of that and far away from that as possible, because no one really knows what the regulations look like. So a lot of the investment for where it's that centralization, it's technically a hedge fund when you invest in and you get a dividend out. But this is all individuals, their own wallets, their own keys. They still own their assets. We are assisting them through the process, and that's the big key that's where we live and where we stay, because we don't want to have to unwind and pivot when any regulations were to come down in the future. So once we have regulations, then everybody can restructure and know what's coming. But it's just not a footprint that we really want to touch. So we want to stay far away from that.
Yeah, no, it's understandable. That's definitely understandable. Well, that's awesome, man. Well, if anybody has questions about on-ramping or they're new to DeFi, Stu's really a great person to talk to, and Block Syndicate would be a great business to work with. That's really their area of expertise outside of the mechanics and the metrics and the economics behind DeFi. They're really an awesome starting point for anybody who's really serious about making the change from private equity into decentralized finance. So if you have any questions for Stu, definitely look him up on Telegram. If you're not on Telegram, get on Telegram, and eventually as the Blockstar, which we'll get into in a minute, the Blockstar ecosystem grows, that's going to be a place that we continue to live and thrive as Ember and as our own individual businesses, and us as just consumers of the industry. So more to come there. But in the meantime, look for Block Syndicate. Go to their website. Look for them on Google, you'll find them. And then also, and we're working on a refreshed site for them too, which I'm going to get my hand slapped on if I don't show something to Stu here pretty soon. So we're excited to be able to give them a little bit of a facelift and roll that out soon.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And easiest way, honestly, is through Telegram right now. It's been our biggest presence, obviously, being kind of in parallel with the Ember agency. You can email me directly. It's stewart@blocksyndicate.co. We actually have just opened up also a mastermind program. So for those that may not actually have the funds ready to invest directly, but we have opened that up to be able to do some open source education and research and all that kind of things, being able to share to as many people as possible. That's awesome. Yeah, it's a new thing that's a lot of our mods and community members have really started to embrace, just to look into it so they can kind of have a nice sort of privatized area where they're getting premium education and be able to ask the right questions and get the right answers without all the distractions and everything that flows in and out of Telegram. So again, any questions about DeFi or onboarding and on-ramping, please look for Crypto Stu. He'd be a good person to talk to. So, DeFi as a term is decentralized finance. All of that is really heavily centralized around the blockchain, and blockchain as a whole, I think is a tough concept for people to grasp. And I think if there's one person in the room right now that could probably break that down into layman's terms for the everyday person to really understand, not necessarily all the nuts and bolts, but just the high level plus the benefits that it's going to bring in the future. That's David Hunter, and David is with Blockstar, amongst a lot of other things that he's done in his professional career. But Blockstar is really his contribution to the space. He's been building it for years, and we're blessed to work with him, not just with him as an advisor, but this really nice reciprocated relationship that we've been able to build. We met David in the in the previous project, and he saw what we were trying to do, saw what we were trying to build, and graciously extended his help to ensure that we landed on 2 feet and had the right leadership pushing us. So without further ado, I just want to introduce David. He's here. I'd love for you to kind of speak to your intro, or your experience, excuse me, give us an intro to kind of your background, your experience, and ultimately, who is Blockstar and where are you going? But before we get into that, just maybe a quick rundown on blockchain and why it's the future, and strengths and any weaknesses even that you're willing to admit to in blockchain that may need to continue to evolve. I think it'd be great for people to hear that perspective from somebody of your caliber.
Yeah, that's quite an intro. I think you just gave the whole rundown and my whole pitch right there. So I'm kidding, obviously, but it's good to be here, and I'm happy to be an advisor for the Ember agency and being able to work with guys like Stu and everything that are also doing great things in the space. Just to give you a little bit of background about me, for any of you guys out there listening that don't already know who I am or just new to the DeFi space or crypto space in general, my name is David Hunter. I'm the founder and the creator and developer behind Blockstar. I've worked with doing many other projects as well within the space, Ethereum push notifications, charged particles. I've worked with a lot of and collaborated with a lot of projects out there, some of them within the top 100 by market cap. To give you a little background about me, I come from a business background as well outside of crypto. I've one of the largest consulting firms in the USA. But just from the crypto side of it, I actually was here before Bitcoin was. A lot of people find that fascinating because that's all they think about is Bitcoin. And well, that's kind of when crypto started. But believe it or not, there was DigiCash and BitGold and all that before. They were kind of the predecessors of Bitcoin before it kind of went mainstream. So as Matt said earlier and everything, he remembered getting back in and, you know, made a few $100 and thought, oh, that was great. And always looking back in the space saying, wow, I wish I would have kept that money. But believe it or not, Matt, you're not the only one that's ever made those mistakes, but you can only make those decisions based on the information you had at hand. And if anybody would have knew back then that, you know, Bitcoin would have been at, you know, $68,000, you know, all those years later. And then obviously we're in a different cycle right now, but we'll be back at those numbers here soon enough. But there's a lot of people that made that, either that or they ended up in landfills. So as most of you guys know, just from the development standpoint, I was in the military as well as the Navy. One of the big things I did there was software development and also on the hardware side of it as well, and did a lot of cryptography through my experience through the Navy as well. In my personal opinion, crypto was tailor-made for me from the business aspect and from the development side and architecture. And that's really what I've tried to bring into the space with all the different things that I develop as well. Blockstar will be my last legacy project, but obviously, as you guys know, being an advisor for Ember is a great way for me to get and still interact with the space, even outside of my projects, and to help people that are up and coming that are really the future of the space. Right. Because like I said, Blockstar is the legacy project for me that will be the last one that I contribute to the space. Just to give you a little bit of background, I do want to pick up on what Stu was saying about DeFi as well. And I'll just kind of give a quick rundown of my thoughts there. Maybe like explain it to a kindergartner, right? So in DeFi, a lot of people are used to centralized finance. That would be your banking and then your overall controlled assets where, you know, not conspiracy theory type stuff, but in many different countries around the world and everything, when you have governing and controlling bodies of what people think that they can do better with your money or invest it better than what you can, right? And they want to control that, put it into banks and all that. If most of you guys weren't alive back in the day when they would all the banks were shut down and everything, and it was very, very hard to get to your money when you needed it, especially during depressions and all that stuff. Well, DeFi changes all that because you have control of all your assets. You're not depending on a bank or somebody else, but also it's not insured like it would be through a centralized exchange. Most of us noticed over this last year, being through centralized finance and centralized exchanges is not necessarily the best way to go. We've seen that with several different platforms. I won't name them. Where those funds were locked up and we didn't have access to them. Had they have been in the DeFi space and in DeFi wallets that you control, you guys have heard it a ton of times about not your keys, not your crypto. That's exactly what it means. Because I can tell you from a professional standpoint, just for investing, I know how to invest my money better than any other governing agency out there. And I want to have access to that money when I want it. So in my opinion, DeFi is where you can go and control your money and decide how you want to invest it, where you want to invest it, or have guys like Crypto Stu over there that can advise you on how to invest them safely in the DeFi space. And I think that's a big part of what their business model is education and how to onboard into DeFi away from a lot of those centralized exchanges. Another example of that would have been, you know, even what Binance, when they had their issues and everything had to be shut down. Nobody had access to the money for several hours. Well, that's the whole key. And that's where the future of decentralized finance is going to, being able to make all those decisions, like I said, when you want to make them and control and spend your money the way that you would like to. Okay. Just from the blockchain aspect of it, DeFi plays a big part into that. And everybody's always asking me, David, what is blockchain, right? Like everybody hears it and what is crypto and all that, but what is blockchain at its simplest form? And really what it is it's a system in the way that we can record information, right? That makes it very, very difficult to change, or I should say impossible to change or to hack or to cheat the system, right? Because blockchain is literally programmable, it's secure. You can be anonymous with inside the blockchain. It's a unanimous consensus vote. So I'll give you guys an example of that. So if you guys remember when you were kids and you were playing the game, and it was more of an exercise in school where one person would whisper to one person, and then the next person would take what they said, whisper to the next person. And then by the time you got to the end of it, it was always different, right? Well, that's kind of the way that blockchain works, but it makes sure that it's what's being said is immutable, and it makes sure when it gets to the other end that it's the exact same thing that was said at the very beginning, right? So what it does is it actually makes a timestamp every time somebody says that exact same thing to somebody, and then anybody that had a variation of it, it kicks it directly out of the system, right? So being able to scale blockchain, right, it is literally a ledger. So if you can imagine having a piece of paper that's on a legal ledger paper and you writing down different transactions throughout a day of what's happening with a timestamp, that's exactly how blockchain works. But in this sense, it's actually distributed that same piece of paper to millions of other people out there around the world, which creates the blockchain. And again, it's a consensus model. Either they all look the exact same at the end of the day, or if there's 4 or 5 different variations, those get kicked out and can be called what they call a fork. And I'll get into that stuff later. I'm sure we're going to have many more of these podcasts and talk about blockchain. But at its base model, it is just exactly what I said. It's programmable, it's secure, it's anonymous, unanimous, that consensus, and it's distributed to millions of other computers and all that stuff around the world. So a lot of people think that blockchain just lives on blockchain. Well, what blockchain essentially is a bunch of computers talking together that all agree on the exact same format at the very end of the day, right? Just like I explained, that exercise and everything when you guys were kids. And it's immutable, and that's where smart contracts come into play, and some of the future behind what some of these smart contracts can do besides just creating digital currencies and stuff, because we hear all the naysayers say, oh, well, you're making stuff up out of thin air. But there are so many use cases with blockchain in general, even outside of the crypto space, being able to do inventory on ledgers. If you can imagine having a multi-billion-dollar company that has hundreds of warehouses and being able to have a distributed ledger between all of them and be able to pull that information at any time within seconds. Most of you guys, as an example, know whenever you go to, and it's gotten better through the years, but if you were to go to purchase something at a convenience store, you would go in and pay for it. You put your credit card in. You used to have to wait for it to go through its process, talk to the network and all of that stuff. Well, on blockchain, because it is a consensus method, it is done instantly, and you could do millions of transactions instead of waiting for one transaction to go through at a convenience store. And that is why there's a lot of bigger players coming into the space and using blockchain technology like Visa, MasterCard, because this is going to be the way of the future. So as Stu said earlier, blockchain is really still in its infancy, even though it's been around all of these years. So going forward, it's almost where you have to start understanding and learning the space. And I think, again, Ember is putting together some education stuff on Zendesk. Blockstar is also doing the same thing. So I think a lot of us are moving in the same direction because it is the future of what we're going to see happening in the real world. So if you're just coming in or you're curious about it, I do encourage you guys to come in and join some of these bigger communities throughout the crypto space, Ember, Block Syndicate, and Blockstar. And that leads me into talking a little bit about Blockstar as well. Blockstar is the first social media platform that was built on blockchain technology, right? So this is a great gateway for anybody that is curious to come into the space and learn to do all the things that you're already doing on other social platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and all those. But we introduce cryptocurrency to you organically and show you a way to onboard directly into the ecosystem, whether you want to stay in centralized finance or you want to stay into DeFi. And in our case, you're actually earning points and rewards and everything for everything that you're doing, like sharing, subscribing, being able to watch ads and all that stuff. And we don't sell your information. I have to say that is the biggest part of it. With a lot of centralized other platforms or social media platforms, they sell all the information to the highest bidder. And instead of you being the consumer of the platform, you are actually the product of the platform, and those advertisers are the consumers, right? Consuming all of your information. That's why they're able to display ads to you that you're not necessarily interested in. So that's something we do not do. Blockstar as a whole is much bigger than just a social media platform. Obviously, we have our NFT platform and all those other utilities that come along with that. If so, if you guys are interested in NFT, the Ember Agency has some super cool NFTs over there. They have those broken up between mini collections. So I encourage you guys to go check that out. Our staking platform. So if you guys do hold the Ember token and looking to earn some APY and some rewards in DeFi, that is a great place to start out at. Go ahead and get those tokens staked up. And then we are going to continue to build, and we're looking to continue to build not just with our partners with Ember and Block Syndicate, but with other partners around the space and everything as well, because all of us bring something new and unique to the space. So I'll kind of leave it at that. If anybody has any questions, JR, Matt, or anybody on something that maybe I didn't touch on or I missed, I'll be happy to answer those as well.
Yeah, no, I think what's really awesome, I mean, if that's not proof in and of itself between those last two gentlemen that just spoke about why it's so crucial to surround yourself with not just not just intellectuals, but intellectuals with insight into this space. I don't know what it is, because yes, we can bring value to businesses. We can build great brands. We can build awesome websites. We can curate awesome communities and market on social media. But without context, we lack everything. And guys like Stu and David and others on our advisory board bring that context. Without them, we'd be flying blindly. I think it's safe to say everything you just heard between the two of them it is technical. It can be simplified, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to be kind of the voice of the consumer as much as we can. Let's pull the awesome knowledge and experience out of their brains and help communicate that to those that are not in DeFi. And to me, when you look at something so powerful like blockchain, you have to break that down in bite-sized pieces, right? And that's what we intend to do. That's what we intend to do through education, through our social media, through our AMAs like this, and podcasts like this, rather. That's a big part of what we're here to do. We're not here to just be another token. We're not here to just create graphics and build websites and advise people. Like that is a big piece of it. The bigger message, the bigger mission is bringing light into a lot of dark spaces, because everything's so decentralized, because so many people hide behind their avatars and fake names and usernames and things like that. There's a lot of gray area in the space, and we're never going to uncover it, nor do we want to. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to shine the light, as some of y'all have heard me say in the past, in the dark alleys of crypto, and David's been doing that for a long time, by being a really a hero in the space and being and showing some bravery by creating what others weren't willing to create. And to me, that is that's awesome. I'll speak personally to the Blockstar 2.0 that's in beta right now. The current experience is awesome. It's good for what David built, considering no one else has. Like, it was very well done. It was very methodical. There's a lot of elements and components to it. This new version that he's done just kind of blew my socks off, considering mine and Matt's user experience background. We've gone on there and created our accounts, and it's the perfect harmony from a user's perspective of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all the other apps you love, without all the trash, without somebody ripping off your personal info and spying on you and things like that. To me, that is the guts of DeFi right there. That's the guts of blockchain, is being able to create experiences for people without feeling like you're doing something, where you're manipulating them, or you're taking something from them without them knowing. Nobody likes to feel vulnerable like that. And anytime I go on any public big tech social platform, I always feel that way. Is what I say going to get me banned because I put my opinion out? Is my religious beliefs or my political beliefs or whatever, is that going to be something that causes my views to go down on content I'm trying to produce? Is it something that's going to cause my account to get frozen because I didn't align with big tech? And that's a real message out there. And the beautiful part is, free speech is the quintessential benefit of David's network and blockchain in general. It's data you're putting out there that's immutable, as he said. So really fascinating perspective. Obviously highly technical, but David always does a great job of breaking that down. And we expect questions. So obviously, if you get those, David's a busy guy. We always try to take those questions on. We ask that you hop in Telegram. and asking, join our chat and ask away. David's active in there. We're active in there every day. So any questions pertaining to blockchain, that's a great place to go. Alternatively, I know, David, you've got a great knowledge base you've built about DeFi, about blockchain through Blockstar. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's a ton of educational stuff, and because we're right in the middle of a merger and everything, going from the V1 to V2 and everything, just give me this week and I will have all of those back up on the V2 platform that we had on V1. So how to blockchain and money, how to DeFi for beginners and advanced, what an NFT is, how to NFT. And to your point, I appreciate you saying all those great things, John. I think it's very, very important. I think something that we've all tried to do throughout the space, even some that haven't been in the space very long, even a lot of the moderators. I think it's very, very important to mention those guys because of how much work they've actually done educating people. Could you hear people in the space all the time talking about, well, you need a wallet to get into crypto? Well, that's great, but what's a wallet, right? You mean the one in my back pocket? So it's really taken all of these aspects and just that terminology and give it context, right? Well, okay, well, these are your wallet options. This is where you go to get a wallet. And I think that's really what's lacking in the space. And I think that's why there's a lot of uneducated people when it comes to cryptocurrency as a general and blockchain in general, right? Because it's been made so complicated when most of these things are very, very, very simple, and being able to come in and actually give context behind all this thing. And I know it's something that we're working on over at Blockstar. I know Ember agency and its mods and everything have been putting together a ton of stuff with Zendesk and all stuff to help new users come into the space. I know that's, kind of all about what Stu and them are doing over there at Block Syndicate. And that's kind of their mission, is the education side of that. So not just saying, okay, you need a wallet, but given the context behind how they get a wallet and what that wallet's purpose and intention is directly into the blockchain. So if you guys will, like I said, give me over the next week and everything, and we'll have all those courses back up. Until then, if you want to pop over to the Ember Telegram group or even their group over on Blockstar, I will make sure that I get those put into some folders that maybe they can get set up on their Zendesk as well.
Yeah, that'd be incredible. I mean, like, again, another perfect example for us to go and create that kind of content. First of all, we can't. Why? We lack the experience in the space, and we're okay admitting that. We know our strengths, and as I said very early in this podcast, like, we know our strengths, we know our weaknesses, and surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals who and like-minded doesn't always mean that you all agree on everything. It doesn't mean you all look at things through the same lens. It means you problem solve as a team, and I think that's a really big distinction to point out. I know we're about to wrap up the podcast, so I do want to say, I know Stu's got to leave us, so I do want to say thank you to having him here, and wish him a wonderful evening. But Stu, thank you for everything you did to communicate your value here in the space and everything Block Syndicate does.
Yeah.
It was awesome having you, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Always happy to jump on. Always happy to jump on and have a conversation. Looking forward to the rest of the series for sure. That's
awesome. So yeah, again, Block Syndicate, Crypto Stu, make sure you go and reach out to him. He's an awesome person to talk to. If you're new to DeFi, please reach out to him through Telegram, and you'll see him not as active. That was his commitment, to make sure he wasn't as active in Telegram once we had 500 members. But all jokes aside, he's in there every day just about, and he'll always keep you on your toes. So look out for him in there. As far as really when you look where DeFi is, where it's going, things like that, and to kind of tie up what I was talking about, a lot of that's going to come down to education, and it would take Matt and I years and years to develop the content that David and Stu and others have been working on. And the fact that we've created enough of a presence to them and built the relationships we've had, that they'd be willing to offer that data and that context to offer to our community to help on-ramp people that much faster and that much more securely, is a testament to what good business looks like. And it's very humbling to enter a space where you're kind of like, hey, who do we meet here, and how do we grow? We know how to grow business, we know how to market, but we're in the Wild West still. There's a lot of discussion on this about the infancy of crypto right now and everything. So all I can tell you is we're going to be able to create an arsenal of educational content as we grow, and on behalf of teams like Blockstar and people like David and Stu that we want to leverage to bring people on. So when I think about where DeFi is going, I'll speak to it from a very high level because of my lack of experience in it. Doesn't mean I don't understand it. It just means that I'm still taking my time to embrace that, as is Matt and many others that are, you know, on our mod team and part of our core team. To me, and I've said this many times on our AMAs, the easy thing to do in the space as a marketer, right? Like, that's my background. The easiest thing to do in the space is to market to people that are already in the space, right? You're creating a better brand. You're showing more security. You're showing better communication. You're having more interaction with the community. Like, people look for that. They soak it up. To me, that's the easy part of marketing in DeFi. You want to know what's hard? Trying to get people who are naysayers, who have never heard of it, who don't understand how it works, and therefore, you know, claim a little bit of ignorance, and therefore even talk it down, right? Getting those people, converting those people, is our mission. It's easy to talk to people in DeFi who are like, okay, you're better than the other guys. Oh, you're more secure. Oh, you're a real business. Okay, yeah, let's talk. I'll look into your project. Sure, I'll hire you guys to build my brand. Absolutely. You're already in the space. You get it. Perfect match made in heaven. We can find those all day long. But one, you're battling with the international market where our fees are going to be higher as an agency, just because of our experience. We're not the cheapest. We don't want to be. We push value in the work that we do, and we're always going to have somebody that's going to do it for a fraction of the price. So it's going to be hard to just come right into this and institute our value. Where I think we're going to shine, and where it's kind of proven that we're going to shine, is leveraging our passion for this industry and for this space in with non-crypto businesses, brick and mortar businesses, different industries, everything from entertainment and media to racing to brick and mortar small businesses to enterprise level businesses that really could benefit from blockchain. And if we can be a voice to them and a bridge to the space, or a bridge to our project, or a bridge to other projects like the BST token, the Blockstar token, or, you know, any of the clients we work with, we are happy to be that hub. We're happy to be that bridge, because as the Blockstar ecosystem continues to grow, as we continue to grow as an agency, as we continue to grow as professionals in this space, we're going to build that trust over and over and over again. That's our endless commitment. And to me, the most exciting thing about where DeFi is going is what people don't know of yet, right? And what I mean is us being able to go to a brewery, to go to a distillery, to go to a boutique, to go to a technology company even, and be like, this is why you should embrace DeFi. This is why this is where it's going, and this is where we think it fits into your puzzle and you fit into its puzzle. And let's just start with baby steps. Let's start by educating, you as an individual, then your team, then your business, then your business's clients, whatever that's going to look like. To me, that is harnessing real power and real opportunity and real responsibility. So to me, that's where's DeFi going. It's going to go outside of DeFi to bring those people in, because that's the only way it's going to grow. You can only reciprocate over and over, project by project, if you only stay in the space. And it's being a fisherman basically, and being able to go and cast a broad net and reel it in. So, to me, that's what I'm most excited about as Ember Agency. Matt, real quick, do you want to touch on any of that?
No, I think you covered all of it, man. You've all done an awesome job. Way better than I could. So I've just been listening and enjoying, and yeah, it's good.
It's awesome. So, David, when you look at the importance of utilities, like Ember has its own utilities, and Beast has utility. Obviously, Blockstar is literally a utility. It's a multitude of utilities. You are a utility. When you think about the importance of that, do you feel like that's like the key of reaching that audience and bringing those non-DeFi, those non-crypto, those non-blockchain parties into the space? What is that? What is the value that you feel like they need to harness to understand the future of DeFi and understand where blockchain can benefit them? Is it so important to have a utility behind what you're doing?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. And that's probably the number one question I get in this space, right? Just from being in for so long, that is the number one question I get asked more than any other question. Besides, can you look at my contract and tell me what's wrong with it, right? But other than that, that is the number one question that I get. I think it's very important to have a little bit of context before I answer that. Just what John said just a little bit ago, for all the naysayers out there, everybody has heard about crypto, even in mainstream at this point. You've heard of Bitcoin, or you've heard somebody say, "Oh, I lost a bunch of money. It was a scam. It was this. It was that." And a lot of that goes back to the education, because for every 10 people that say they got scammed or something happened to them with inside of crypto, there's people that have made a living in crypto. Me, for one, I've been fortunate enough to make money outside of crypto, but this is where I live. I live in the crypto space, 18, sometimes 24 hours a day. And if anybody can explain to me how to get 48 out of 24 hours, I'll be ready to listen to that as well. But this is where I live. So I've seen it firsthand where millionaires are made throughout the crypto space. Now, does everybody come in and become millionaires? No. But what I said all that to say, all the naysayers out there, it's because of the education was not available to them, or they didn't seek out the education to understand how to navigate inside the DeFi space. So from a utility standpoint, I think that is very, very important to first get educated before you start making any of your trades. Or you even if you have a business and you're looking to get into DeFi, or you're looking to get into Web3, which is where the future of the internet is going to be at. It's going to be Web3. You need to get educated in the space. So from a project standpoint, I think number one in this space, you need some type of utility, because you need to bring value to what people are looking for when they come here. If you're just going to be another meme token or a dog coin or a cat coin or something like that, you can go and you can get that nostalgia feel and that type of environment anywhere, even outside of crypto, right? But if you're really looking to come in and you have a business mindset and you're looking to create financial freedom for yourself, your family, or even for your business, and you're looking to get into that space where everybody is going to end up eventually, we already have tons of governments out there that are already doing mass adoption. So I think if you're going to be a creator in this space and you want to create your own token, your own project, I think it's very, very important to sit down and create that roadmap and figure out that utility or something that's missing in the space, which is why we created Blockstar and some of the other big projects that I've been part of, and why those were created. And the same thing that I can vouch for Ember, why it was created, because there's a missing piece of the market that I think Ember Agency can fill. So again, if you're out there, you're looking to create something or bring something new, find out what's missing in the space, see where you can add value, and then start building from that point. But I think it's very, very important, the education aspect of it and understanding what value you can bring to the space and how to accomplish that. So to answer your question, I do think as a project, you do need to have utility.
I love it. I love it. I think there's a growing need for more and more people like David and Stu, and hopefully, Ember as we grow. And sorry, I'm reading through our team chat, and this is why I love this space. I'll say this as a quick shoehorn, because I know this is just going to be totally random. I have learned to enjoy what I do for a living again. Like I want to repeat that. I have learned to enjoy what I do for a living again, and it's not because of the brands that I've designed, and it's not because I love just working with Matt or I love working with Stu and David or the team. It is the collective of everybody. I get to wake up and laugh. I get to wake up and see fresh faces, hear fresh voices every single day, and it's just every day something new. There's variety. There's learning. There's things that challenge me to do better and commit further and work harder and listen better and everything else. And I think if you're not challenging yourself and you're not listening every day of your life, then in your mind you've got everything figured out. And the one thing I'll say that I'm so thankful for is the ability to listen. I do, due to my role and everything else, end up doing a lot of talking, as does David in his role, and oftentimes, Stu in his role. Like, that's just the nature of the beast. Yeah. But the ability to interact with so many different people from so many different walks of life, both in and outside of our team, and challenge me to think differently, to go outside my own box and start to future proof our company and our agency and our token and our ecosystem, and David specifically with Blockstar as he rolls out into 2023, we're blessed to be a big part of that. And I do think that if you're not willing to, not necessarily, and it's not riding the coattails of others, but surround yourself in and outside of a profession, in and outside of DeFi, surround yourself with knowledgeable people. That is the biggest lesson that I've learned, because I hands down, I'm not here to pamper anybody up. They already know how I feel about them. I hate everybody. No, I'm kidding. But all jokes aside, like I think the most important thing you can do is surround yourself with wise people. Wisdom is such a hard concept to grasp nowadays, because everything is so immediate, instant gratification, Amazon Prime, digital downloads, gigabit internet. It's like everything's instant. And wisdom sometimes isn't instant. So I just want to say that when you look at the future of DeFi, when you look at where the space is going, to just embrace it. And that's my biggest message for everybody. That's what I'm doing. I have a lot to learn in the space. I know Matt does. I know, Stu does. And even I'm sure David, it's constant evolution. We're in the early stages of this. So I'll let David say one more thing. Before we wrap up, try to keep this around an hour and less going forward. But I hope you found that this space can be fun, exciting, and educational, all in and of itself. So yeah, David, he had a couple more things you wanted to add here.
Yeah, just to pick up on Zach, what you said, John. Even being in space as long as I have, it's so much in the early days of crypto still, even all these years later, it's still in its infancy, and things are changing so fast. The technology is changing so fast. There's so many things to learn, and every single day I learn something new within the space, or something else that's coming out, or new technologies that's possible, right? So I know you guys heard me talk a lot about just from a project standpoint and ownership of that and having utilities and all that stuff, but there is the investor side of it, right? And being in crypto as an investor is not all about just hanging out, day trading, and watching charts all day long. Nobody has time for that, right? I can just tell you, I'm a avid investor. I'm an advisor in crypto, and I spend more time working inside of crypto and not looking at charts, right? Because I'm making those sound investments because of the education that I sought out in the early days of my crypto career, and even still today that I look into projects and research and all that. So it's not all about just watching a chart. And if you're not having fun, to JR's point, in crypto, you're not doing it right. If you're upset and you're having rough days in crypto, it's because you're not doing it right. Crypto is supposed to be a fun space, and I hope that's something that I can help bring more to the space, is being able to come in and have fun and be able to also make money within the space. But just outside of the realm of making money in crypto, crypto is much bigger than just, like I said, watching charts and making money and all that, because it also offers all those abilities to do things that we didn't think was possible from a technology standpoint that have nothing to do with money. Like I mentioned earlier about inventory control and all that. And you say, well, that's great for big businesses, but how does that affect me? Well, when you can start cutting costs down, because those companies are able to do these things and cut down some of the overall people that are involved in making those decisions with those mistakes, just like when you're calling into call centers and you have to deal with somebody that you don't necessarily speak your native language, you can do all these things with the control of your hands within seconds, instead of having to wait on hold for minutes and hours and maybe not get the correct information. So there's so much technology that's pushing the momentum of crypto beyond just meme tokens, and also the financial side of it. So I hope you guys stick around. And again, if you guys are out there listening, everything, I encourage you guys to come in and seek the education and work with other companies like Ember Agency, like I said, Block Syndicate. Come over and join Blockstar. There's a ton of knowledgeable people in this space, even though that, JR, I know Matt's been in here for over 10 years, even with John being new to the space and everything, he has a lot of value to bring to the space. And I think going forward, a lot of education is going to help people further along in the space. And then you're going to turn a lot of those naysayers, or the people that aren't having fun in crypto, into people that really enjoy the space and want to continue to watch it grow and flourish.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well said. And I appreciate that, David. Yeah. You want to see what the good side and the side that we're going to keep pushing rather of crypto looks like. Go to blockstar.world. It's in beta right now. David's looking for beta testers. I just challenge everybody, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, Twitter, any of those, and you've been happy with that experience and how it functions and the things you can learn and see and scroll, I think you'll be more than blown away at the quality and attention to detail that David has put into to Blockstar. So we'll save the kind of Blockstar extravaganza for another podcast, because I think there's a lot of pieces. We're going to have to kind of eat that elephant a bite at a time. But I think there's a lot that you guys can learn out there about what David's bringing to the space and what Blockstar is going to be well beyond a social media platform. And with that, I just want to say thank you to everybody that showed up on the call today. Matt, thank you for all your continued leadership as my partner in this. Wouldn't want to do this with anyone else. David, thank you so much for your leadership. And one thing on that is you think about it. This will give you perspective. Matt and I, when we have questions, when we need insight, when we need advice, David is truly one of the first people we call. Sometimes we go to Stu, sometimes we go to David, sometimes we go to our other advisors, but anything blockchain related, we go to David. And for you to sit there and listen to and hear David saying, I am learning new things every single day and we're in its infancy. Think about what he knows compared to what we know, and then let that sink in. That'll show you how early we really are in this. And yet there's so much to learn between the delta between David and Matt and myself and others that are part of the team. There's a big delta there, right? There's a 10, 12, 13, 14-year delta of experience, right? And insight. And you think, if we're that early, that like, just think about what this is going to look like in 100 years, in 20 years, 50 years, 1,000 years, whatever it's going to be. It's really, it really makes you think. So with that said, I'm going to wrap up. This has been episode 1 of Ember Episodes. This is our weekly podcast. Some of these podcasts are going to be done as AMAs, where we can bring and invite our audience and our community in to ask us questions where we can answer them real time. Some of the questions we get, we'll be able to receive beforehand and be able to answer those as cleanly and efficiently as possible. And otherwise, it's just going to be a place for us to talk and hang out. Again, this has been episode 1, the facets of an Ember, our construct, our mission, our vision, and our values. I'm JR, been your de facto host today, which is new for me. So hopefully I didn't fumble my words too much. I am the proud CEO and co-founder of Ember. Matt, Batman, our CTO and co-founder. Crypto Stu, our economic advisor, and David, our blockchain advisor. Just want to thank you for coming on today. I hope anyone listening out there found that they can take that next step into learning about Ember as a company, learning about what it's going to take to on-ramp or working with somebody that can get you there like Stu, and understanding the power of blockchain from David. Thank you guys for joining. And next week we have episode 2 next Thursday, which is where you get to meet the founders. You get to learn a little bit more about the lives of JR and Matt and what's inspired us to not just enter the ecosystem here, but to stay in it and to want to grow in it. So look forward to doing that next week. Thank you all. Hope you all have a blessed day.